So this video will be the story of my firstborn child here, Roman, and I had an all-natural birth at a birthing center. So I want to share just because before I got pregnant or while I was pregnant, I looked at a lot of these videos for inspiration and, just kind of seeing what it would be like to have a baby naturally from other moms. So, that's my main reason for wanting to share this video today, is to hopefully help somebody else with their curiosity or help inspire them with a very positive natural birth story. So I'm going to start the day before he was born on June the 3rd. I woke up having consistent contractions. So I was kind of lucky in this aspect because as a first-time mom, as you may know, when you get close to having your baby, you start to wonder, am I gonna know? How is it gonna be? Am I gonna have false labor? Am I gonna have, or is it just Braxton Hicks? I personally didn't have many Braxton Hicks type contractions in my pregnancy, where the stomach is tightening. I did have cramping, which ended up more emulating kind of how my labor contractions were, but that was kind of picking up, I would say a few weeks before I actually had him. So I started to have a little cramping. I lost some of my mucus plug, and my stomach had significantly dropped one day. But when I woke up on June the 3rd, the day before he was born, I started having them from the moment I woke up very consistently. And so I started timing them, but I knew that I really just wanted to get a baseline. That's why I was timing them. I knew I was nowhere near the point where I would need to go into the birthing center. It was just, let me see where I'm at. So there were some that were 5 minutes apart, and then sometimes it would be 7 minutes, 11 minutes, stuff like that. And they weren't super painful or intense or anything along those lines. So I continued to do stuff around the home. I ended up, finishing up laundry and just tidying up. My partner, Daniel, ended up going to the grocery store, getting last minute things and taking our dogs out for a walk and everything like that. So as the day progressed and I stopped recording them, and then I would kind of start again, and I did notice that they were getting closer together and more strong. That's when I wanted to reach out to my midwives. So I called the midwife on call, and it was actually somebody that I had worked with a lot throughout my pregnancy at the birthing center. So I was very familiar with her, and it was obvious to both of us that I'm still in early labor in the afternoon, but I think tonight I could be transitioning to the point where maybe coming in would be a nice thing for me, because I didn't want to just show up at the birthing center and push the baby out. I did want to be there and use the tools that the birthing center has for comfort, and just you never know how long you're gonna be in labor, but I didn't want to wait till the last minute, of course. So she kind of agreed that I could come in and get checked that night, which is really what I was just wanting to do and was hoping to stay. So we went around 8 p.m. and right before actually the car ride, because I was really nervous about the car ride all along through my pregnancy, and I didn't want it to be that painful. It wasn't that painful. I probably only had 4 or 5 contractions, but I did throw up in the car, and also right before I left the house, I threw up. And it was the first time, it was because I was laying on my side. I just got a contraction, and it wasn't oh my God, it was so painful it made me throw up. It was just, I felt nauseous and sick, and I had to throw up from having a stronger contraction than I was used to. I don't really know. But once we got to the center, I was pretty uncomfortable from the car, but also like it was just kind of getting to that time. And I think like in hindsight, looking back, I also was being a hair dramatic because I wanted my midwives that were about to see me to know that like I was in labor, like don't send me home, like I'm not gonna go home. This was already like a lot getting here and getting my house ready, and like I'm not going home. I want to be at the birthing center until I have my baby. And so when I walked in, I was kind of moaning, groaning, and like, uncomfortable, having to pause and take time through my contractions. We ended up checking me, and I was about 3 to 4 centimeters dilated and about 80% effaced. So that was okay, I guess. And she was kind of fine with me staying. She said I could go home, but we wanted to stay. So the next few hours, I basically sat in the bed initially, and I think I laid in the bed to my side. And as I mentioned earlier, when I laid on my side at home, I threw up. So that ended up happening again at the birthing center. And at that point, my midwife tested my urine and was like, yeah, you're really dehydrated and all this throwing up is not helping. So she gave me the option to drink a lot of water or start an IV. I chose to drink a lot of water and try to just not lay on my side. So I drank about 2 liters worth of water. One of them had like element in it, which is just like minerals and electrolytes and stuff, and the other one was just plain water. And so I basically kept them down. I'm pretty sure. I don't think I threw them up again at that time at night. It's just that I couldn't lay on my side, so I had to sit up in the bed. And after a while, probably around like 11 o'clock going on 12, I was like, okay, want to do something different. Let me try to get in the shower. So there's a big bouncing ball, that you kind of move around on a lot in pregnancy, exercise ball. And I sat on that in the shower with a handheld shower handle. And that's like my first tip for natural delivery is water helping. Like, as you know, showers and tubs can really help, but that handheld shower massager, like running it all over my body, was just amazing. Like, it felt so good, so helpful. It really, really, really made a humongous difference throughout my whole labor, because it slowed down the contractions to the point like that I was still having them, but it made it more manageable. Whereas just sitting upright in bed was starting to get like not unmanageable, but really uncomfortable enough for me to want something different. So in the shower, I was very happy. Like, I knew that I couldn't stay in there all night or I wouldn't progress enough, but I would have if I could have, because I was just so comfortable running the water all over my body in between contractions. And I didn't really want the water on me during contraction. I don't know why, but I would remove it, sit there, breathe, focus, and then my reward was like calming my body back down with that warm water. Let me think next. After that, Daniel ended up helping me as well with the water. He would come in there and do it, especially as time went on and I kind of got more exhausted from just having to use my own energy to, run it all over. But he came in and helped me out. And then I went either back to the bed or maybe to the rocking chair in the room and sat upright like this. Once again, I couldn't really lay down, but I could kind of doze off in between contractions. And that was pretty good. Sometimes I felt like they were more uncontrollable when I would doze off versus being more present and just breathing through them once they came, like being prepared for the wave. But anyways, that was really all right. And so as the night progressed, I think we ended up maybe checking me again around 5 a.m. And I had moved from that 3 to 4, 80% effaced to about a 5 and like 90% effaced. So that was good progress that I had made, but still had a ways to go, obviously. A little after that, I lost a big part of my mucus plug, like a really, really, really big chunk. And so I was very excited to show my midwife because I was wanting to prove to her, like, hey, like, yeah, I was supposed to be here. Like, I'm progressing. I'm using the shower. Things are moving along. And I lost my mucus plug more. So, like, stuff must be happening. She was happy about that. I think she was retesting my urine and it was coming back as more hydrated, so that was pretty good. And I didn't really deal with anything else after that, but that whole IV conversation was definitely in the talks when I was quite dehydrated initially. And I was about to do it, but luckily I could keep down the water. So that's something like that obviously is really important in labor. I think a lot of first-time moms have very long labors. And so staying hydrated and fueled throughout the labor and like resting as much as possible is another tip for you, because I've seen some videos and stories and experiences that I've heard of from moms that have said like they had to go to the hospital or whatever the case was because they were just so exhausted at the end that they couldn't make it through transition. They couldn't push out their baby. It was just too much. So I was very, very happy and lucky that I could keep down the water and have snacks and stay very hydrated and like also rest in between those contractions. Like I mentioned, the shower helped rest, relax, conserve energy, and that helped me so much through my labor. So that midwife that I was working with ended up leaving around 8 a.m. Like I said, she last checked me around 5. And so when she left at 8 and my new midwife came, I was telling her, so when my new midwife came around, they switched around 8 in the morning. And then I told her I wanted to wait a few more hours to be checked again because I was just checked at 5 and I wanted to like actually have made progress before being checked again. So we waited to about 10 and she checked me, and at that point I think that I was like a 6 and 100% effaced, I'm pretty sure. So that was pretty good, and I was probably on the verge of like a 6 to 7. But she was I think she was wanting to like get things on and moving, whereas I was really liking my pace. And so like my advice and my experience was I liked keeping my contractions 5-ish minutes apart where I could rest, sometimes even more than 5 minutes apart. I was still progressing at that pace. It was just that I felt like that helped me stay very together and not to spiral and not to feel like I couldn't handle the situation. I wanted to feel in control. And so I don't know if I ended up getting much back in the shower after like that 10 o'clock. Maybe I did a little bit. And I definitely sat in the rocking chair and was going through some contractions that were like, this is getting really uncomfortable. So I convinced her that I was ready to get in the tub because she didn't really want for me to get in the tub until I was further along. But I was just like, I want something different. I feel like I need something different. I want to get in the tub. So she let me do that. And I was like tapping my foot impatiently while they, cleaned the tub and filled the tub up to the perfect temperature or whatever. So, I was really, really ready for something different. But once I got in the tub, there was really not the relief that I was looking for. Like the main reason I think for that is I was very buoyant. My arms and my legs were like floating to the top, and I was having to feel like I had to push them down, which when you're almost a 7 and you're about ready to have your baby and you've been up all night, like you're just not feeling like pushing your arms and legs down and working through more painful contractions that are really taking you like a lot of energy to get through. So Daniel, my partner, ended up actually pulling the plug on the tub and letting the water run through and filling the tub simultaneously so that there would be like suction downward. But I didn't like that. Like it was just too much. I didn't want to stay there. I really wasn't comfortable. And I think I did stay there probably for like 30 minutes to an hour just due to me not like really feeling like getting up at all. Like you just at a certain point, you don't really want to move anywhere. Like moving anywhere takes a lot of energy. And in between contractions, once again, I just wanted to rest. So anyway, before I got out of the tub, this was a period of time, kind of a transitional period of time, I would say, where I really needed an ice pack. So another tip for you, bring ice packs. If you're birthing center or wherever you're at home, whatever, have ice packs readily available. We were alternating through like one in the freezer, one on my head, and just whenever it would melt, we would switch. But it would just be like head, chest, back, neck. Like after a contraction, I was so hot and I needed that relief so desperately to get through, just getting my body back down to like a homeostasis, like baseline, in between those contractions. So that was really helpful, and Daniel helped me with that ice pack. Once I got out of the tub, I do think that I can't actually remember if it was before or after the tub that I lost more of my mucus plug, and my midwife told me I should lay down on my side again because she was really trying to help me progress, and like the side position can help do that, I guess. But I really did not want to because I worked really hard to keep all my fluids down. And when she convinced me to do it, I laid on my side and I threw up again. So I was really irritated by that because, like I said, I worked hard to keep those fluids down, but that might have been before a tub. I really cannot remember. So once all of that was done, in whatever order, because I don't remember the exact order for all of that, but once all of that was done, lost more mucus plug, got out of the tub, I was then convinced a third time to lay on my side. Okay, so the second side laying must have been before the tub. Okay, so I was then convinced again to lay on my side, and I don't know why I did. I think some time had passed. Okay, this was very close to when I gave birth to him. This was like my transition, which transition is like 8 to 9 centimeters right before you get to 10. So I laid on my side again. I don't know how she convinced me. I had either pillows or the peanut ball, but I did not throw up this time, which was really incredible. And like, I don't know why that happened, but it was just too intense at that point. And so I was laying there, and when I would have a contraction, I would end up, Daniel was behind me, behind the bed, and I would grab his shirt and I would pull it as hard as I could down. And like, I was just using all the strength in my body for whatever reason. Well, I think the reason is because I felt the same thing going on down there. So it's like during the contraction, I felt pulling and like, my cervix pulling back, him moving down, whatever. I felt that. So I wanted to counteract that, if that makes sense. And like, I was just pulling so hard. And then once I was done pulling on him, which I felt bad about even in the moment, but I was like, I have to do this. I'm sorry. Like, I don't have anything else to pull on. So once I was done doing that, contraction was over, then he would do the ice on me and everything like that. And at that point, when I was on my side, the midwives were kind of in and out still, even though I was also being very vocal at this point. So I don't know if I mentioned, but like all the way up to this time, I was not being vocal. I told y'all that I was when I first got to the birthing center with my midwives when I checked in, but the whole night, the whole next morning and afternoon, like I was very quiet and silent to conserve energy, and I just didn't feel like I needed to be vocal. But at this moment in transition, I became very loud through my contractions. And so my midwives were kind of in and out of the room. I think because there was another lady in the birthing center also in labor. And so normally they probably would have been in there a little bit more while their patient is like screaming and very close to giving birth. But they were in and out. So they left at the moment that I felt like a ton of wetness down there after a contraction. So I told Daniel, I'm like, yeah, I think my water just broke. Like, you need to go get them and tell them to come back because like things are going on and y'all need to be in here. So they came back, and I think she was like, yeah, like you're basically a 10, like you're ready. Like, how do you feel? Do you feel like you need to push? And I started like right then when she said that, I was like, you know what? At the end of the contraction, I do feel like I need to push. So yes, but she told me that I really needed to wait until my entire contraction felt like I needed to push. So not just the end of the contraction, like the contractions were feeling just like pulling and like a lot of pain or pressure or whatever you want to say, cramping, I don't know. But then it turned into over the next, I don't know how many minutes or whatever, where my whole body, like my stomach would harden and like literally start pushing the baby out. And then I could just like push as well to assist that. So this is a part of the story that starts to get really graphic, as you can kind of imagine. But at that point, I got off the bed and I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. I drank so much water, and I really wasn't going, I was trying to go number one, but I wasn't going that much. So at this point, I had to do that and go number two at the same time. And so I kind of did some in the bathroom. I kind of did some on the floor. Like, it was a very big mess. At this point, just like your baby's coming, there's so much pressure. Like, there's a lot going on, and I did not care at all. So, I was embarrassed mentally, but like also not enough to like, I can't control like what's happening. So that happened. And then I asked for the birthing stool because I wanted to sit down and start pushing and, kind of get him out. And my midwife agreed that I could sit on the birthing stool and push, but she told me that she would rather me not push him out on the birthing stool. Once it was time to actually push him out, she wanted me to move to the bed or somewhere else because she felt like women tear worse when they are sitting on the birthing stool just from the gravity and like pushing super hard. So I didn't really like that. Like, I was basically in the mindset where I'm like, I want to push him out right now. I want to push as hard as I can, and I don't mean he could fly out at any moment. So just tell me where I need to be if you don't want me here. And at that point, I just went over to the bed. I think I may have gone on my hands and knees at first. I don't really know. And then I went to my back. And that was the position that I ended up pushing him out in. So on my back, my legs were raised and held by the women, the midwives, the birthing assistants, and also Daniel. And then he was still doing my eyes and everything like that. But in those contractions, I would curl up like a C and just push as hard as I could. And really, from my recollection, I think I only had like 3 to 4 pushes or contractions rather, where I was having to push really hard during those contractions to try to get my baby out. And yeah, towards the end, okay, the head is kind of crowning and everything like that. That is when Daniel started to become kind of faint. And in the video I'm adding here, you can kind of see that he moves back away from me. And then like eventually once the baby comes out, he comes back towards us and like he is feeling better. But I think looking at the head come in and out kind of made him quite queasy. So that was kind of funny. But for me, with the whole crowning, it really like, I remember saying, ow, 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 this really hurts, and just like being in pain, yeah. But also, it's such a short time. You know your baby's coming out. You don't really care about anything other than just getting them out. And yeah, like they're about to come out, so the pain feels temporary, even in the moment. And it really wasn't that bad. Like, it's very much a stretching feeling, but for me, it wasn't so bad. My baby came out at 6 pounds and 14 ounces. So that is something to consider just a little bit with how big he was. He wasn't, huge. And so that really helped me out, I do think. But 6 pounds and 14 ounces, 20 and a half inches long. And yeah, they put him on my chest. I had the afterbirth. I think I asked about tearing, and she said, no, I didn't tear. I just kind of had small abrasions from where everything had stretched so much, just like kind of micro rips, I guess, but not an actual tear anywhere, which was nice. And she ended up telling me, asking me if I wanted Pitocin because I was bleeding a little bit more than maybe she felt comfortable with. I do think though, like a lot of people do it for preventative purposes, and I really think that's what it was for me, was just a preventative shot at that point to help my uterus contract back down and to stop the bleeding from the blood vessels. And so when she asked me, I was like, you know what, like, I don't know, like, you're the one who's down there, you're the midwife, like, I have no clue. If you think I need it, then just give it to me, like, I don't know. And so she gave it to me. I really don't think it ended up being necessary based off of like how my body went down after, and they felt my fundal height after, and just felt like the uterus and everything was going really smoothly, and I never had like major blood clots or a ton of bleeding after. So I really think it was more for preventative purposes. But that is a scary thing. You don't want to hemorrhage, you don't want to start losing a ton of blood. You're not at the hospital in my setting, and they don't have bags of O positive blood sitting around, which is my blood type. So anyway, we ended up wrapping that up. I just lay there with him for a few hours, and then they wanted to watch me go to the bathroom, because a lot of people end up, I don't know actually with why they want to see that you can go number one, is what they really want for you to do. Maybe it just like kind of clears things out. I'm not really sure. And then they want to make sure you don't like pass out on the way to the bathroom, so they go with you. But I was fine. I didn't feel like passing out. I was weak, but not passing out. And then the experience going number one was actually really, really uncomfortable. And I didn't have a rip, but those little abrasions that I was talking about, I do think were being, the the acid in the urine was making those abrasions feel very uncomfortable. And so that peri bottle and spraying myself helped so much. I think I filled it up like 4 or 5 times because the sink was right beside me. So I would like let my stream go and spray myself at the same time, and then stop the stream and go back and forth between that, because I was like just downing myself in water. Like, I was not about to want to feel how that was really feeling when I would start to feel it. Okay. So anyway, that was the worst of it. And I got back to the bed. They did all of the checks on him. They cut the cord. What else? My midwife helped me with breastfeeding. And honestly, ever since then, like, she kind of helped me with my latch. And ever since that moment, we haven't needed any other assistance from a lactation consultant or anything like that. We've been breastfeeding now for almost 6 weeks. that he's been born. So, it's going really, really well. And my healing has gone really, really well. I know that's not what this video is about with my birth story, but, my stomach started going back down immediately. And I felt heavy down there for like maybe 2.5 to almost 2.5 weeks, I would say. And then around 3 weeks, I was not feeling that heaviness down there anymore, but I was still feeling some pressure with different movements in my lower abdomen, like my uterus. And so that's about gone now, as I'm about to be 6 weeks postpartum here soon. And the bleeding for me is also basically done. Like, I haven't been wearing a pad much at all recently. So I think that it's basically all gone. But yeah, it was a really, really, really good experience. I highly recommend the birthing center because I never, not one time that I was there, felt concerned about myself or my child. They checked me the whole time, like my heart rate, his heart rate, my blood pressure, and they never raised flags. They never raised concern. And sometimes I feel like at the hospital, because they're doing their continuous monitoring, whereas at the birthing center, it's like every 30 minutes to an hour, that the hospital sometimes raises more red flags that can cause you to stress out more, which is only going to in turn cause your baby and your body to stress out more and like have more decels and like different problems like that with the heart rate. That's just my personal opinion from things I've heard and seen. But, that's why I felt really comfortable at the birthing center. I did not want any interventions. I liked that me and my midwives were on the same page for the most part with everything. And they were just there to support me in this natural birthing process. So yeah, I really support it, or I really recommend it. And I also, believe that if you're watching this and you're wanting to have a natural birth, that you're capable, whether you've had different births in the past or whether this is going to be your first birth like mine. Our bodies are created for this, and preparation is like my biggest recommendation, bringing things to the experience that are going to help out, like hydration and ice and a good support team and a good mindset and just good information, like knowing how the process is gonna unfold. I knew it was gonna be a long process. It ended up being over 30 hours, but not all of those hours were, painful or uncomfortable. There was a lot of hours on the first day that were completely manageable. And as time went on, it started to increase, but I had my coping techniques. I had my breath work. I had my meditative mindset and just being quiet and calm and trying to stay in control until it got to the point where I was like, hey, I can be out of control now because this baby is coming whether I like it or not. Like, he's going to be here really soon. So I can scream if I want and I can, whatever, because he's about to be here. But ultimately knowing how the birthing process happens, knowing that going from 0 centimeters, 0% effaced to fully effaced and 10 centimeters, like knowing what that will look like most likely helped me a lot. And getting my cervical checks and knowing how I was progressing also helped me mentally throughout the process. So, it was a very straightforward process, and I feel very blessed about that we didn't have any issues. Not everybody's situation will be like that, but this is just my story, and I think that it's a story that many women have had, and many women will have, and many women are capable of having. So I really appreciate you listening to this story, and please comment below if you feel like it is helping you in any way, and I will reply to anybody's comment that has a question to me or just something to say about the story. So thank you for watching, and talk to you next time.